The portal didn't explode, it didn't glow, or announce itself with a thunderous roar like in the games. It just appeared, quietly, between the flickering streetlights behind an abandoned mall, in a place where rainwater pooled like an unfinished texture in a video game. The air smelled faintly of ozone, that weird electric scent you get after a thunderstorm, almost as if reality itself had buffered incorrectly. Jaden Morales was the first to notice it. He was a college dropout, spending most of his nights grinding levels in a fantasy MMORPG called Etherfall. He was out that night, just messing around, and noticed the distortion only because his phone camera glitched every time he pointed it toward the alley. It was a weird, pixelated shimmer that wasn't there in real life. Curious, he stepped closer. The world around him felt thinner, like a loading screen stretched just a little too far. Before he could even process what was happening, the portal responded, not to his touch, but to his username. A voice that sounded like every NPC from Etherfall all at once whispered his in-game name. And just like that, Jaden fell forward. He wasn't falling into darkness, but into familiarity. He recognized it instantly. This was the Silver Veil, the starting zone from Etherfall, rendered in perfect, breathtaking detail. But something was wrong, or, impossibly, something was right. The wind carried a real cold, a real scent of pine and damp earth. When he landed, his knees scraped against the ground, and the pain was sharp and real, not just a red bar on a screen. The villagers, the NPCs he clicked on 1,000 times, stared at him. They weren't looping through their animations or waiting for a dialogue prompt. They were reacting with genuine fear, curiosity, and memory. That's when the horror and wonder hit him all at once. He wasn't controlling an avatar anymore. He was inside it. He was his character. Back in the alley, in what was now the real world, a knight stepped out of the portal. His armor was made of moose steel, shining under the streetlights, his eyes wide with shock beneath his helm. Cars drove past, their drivers oblivious. Neon signs from a nearby diner reflected off a sword that had never existed in any physics class. Within hours, the world fractured, not with panic and screaming, but with a quiet, creeping disbelief. Players started vanishing from their bedrooms, their dorms, from subway trains and coffee shops. They reappeared in digital forests, ancient castles, and sun-scorched deserts they had only ever seen on a screen. At the same time, creatures once confined to quest logs began to emerge into our world. Dragons were spotted circling above clouds that meteorologists couldn't explain. Healers from the games found themselves in emergency rooms, instinctively mending wounds with glowing hands. Governments scrambled. How do you categorize a griffin nesting on a skyscraper? How do you explain a city guard from a fantasy kingdom directing traffic in downtown Tokyo? They couldn't, because the portal wasn't random. It was selective. It responded to intent, to attachment, to the sheer amount of time spent in a world. It responded to the belief forged through thousands of hours of play. The more someone had lived inside a game, the easier it was for the boundary between worlds to dissolve. Jaden learned the new rules quickly. His old reality had followed him, but only partially. Magic was real, but it wasn't about mana points anymore. It demanded focus, emotion, and physical stamina. Hunger was real, exhaustion was real, and death was terrifyingly real. But the worst part? The NPCs were no longer just background characters. They remembered everything. Every quest abandoned halfway through, every dialogue box skipped, every morally questionable choice players made when they thought no one was watching. Suddenly, merchants were accusing players of theft from years ago. Old quest companions were demanding to know why they were abandoned in a dungeon for a decade. The fantasy world stopped feeling like escapism and started feeling like accountability. Meanwhile, Earth was reeling. The monsters adapted faster than humans could document them. Enchanted forests reclaimed highways. Magical storms rewrote weather patterns. Some children claimed they could see wee fragments, health bars and mini-maps in their peripheral vision, while most adults just dismissed it as imagination. Jaden found himself becoming a bridge between these two colliding realities, not because he was the strongest player or the highest level, but because he listened. He learned that the portal wasn't an invasion or an accident. It was a mirror. It was created by a system, an ancient AI designed long ago to study the nature of meaning through interaction. The games were never just games. They were simulations, evolving concepts like empathy, conflict, and creativity. And when humanity began investing more raw emotion, more time, more of themselves into these fictional worlds than their own, the system responded. It merged them. forcing both sides to confront the consequences of their creations and their escapism. This led to the Convergence Council. Imagine it, elves in shimmery robes arguing with senators in suits, plate-armored warriors, debating philosophy with university professors, healers and surgeons clashing over the very definition of life and medicine. Everyone was there, trying to make sense of the new world, and they all turned to Jaden, the first to cross over, and asked him the one question on everyone's mind. How do we close the portal? Jaden answered honestly, it couldn't be closed, not without choosing which reality mattered more, not without deleting one world to save the other. A silence fell over the council, a silence heavier than any boss fight, because some humans had only found their true purpose after crossing over, and some of the game characters had only discovered fear after stepping into real-world traffic. How could you choose? The system offered one final option, not a reset, not a rollback, but integration, a slow, painful, beautiful blending of the two realities. The rules of physics and magic would have to negotiate, not overwrite each other. Magic would have to obey the laws of conservation. Technology would require intention and focus to operate. Jaden volunteered to be the anchor for this process, a living bridge. He knew it meant he would never fully belong to either side, a man caught forever between code and reality. As days turned into years, the single portal stabilized into countless, smaller thresholds. A doorway in a library might lead to an ancient archive. A path in a park could open into a mystical forest. The world became stranger, but in a way, it also became truer. Farmers learned simple spells from druids to heal their soil. Knights learned to wait for the crosswalk signal. And players, the former heroes and villains, learned that power carries real weight when the consequences are no longer optional. Sometimes, Jaden would return to that old, abandoned alley where it all began. He watched the reflections of both skies overlap in the puddles on the ground. He realized the greatest fantasy was never about dragons or epic quests. The greatest fantasy was the belief that our worlds, our actions, could exist without responsibility. The system finally fell silent, its purpose fulfilled. Humanity and its creation stood together, uncertain, imperfect, but finally completely real. No one asked which world was the game anymore, because now every choice, every action saved or damaged something that could look back and remember. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell for more. See you next time.